Hello and welcome to Captains of Industry. In this week's episode, we take you to Kigali, Rwanda, where we speak to Dr. Monique Nsanzabaganwa. She is the Vice Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda. Thank you for making time to speak to us.
Thank you.
There's obviously a lot that we could talk about as far as growth and progress is concerned in Rwanda. But let's start with a status update of how the Rwandan economy is doing from the National Bank of Rwanda's perspective. Yeah,
the Rwandan economy is doing very well. Rwanda is one of the fast-growing economies in our region. When we look at the last 3 quarters of last year, which is up to September, the economy has grown around 7%, and the inflation is stable. The headline inflation in January was 4.5%. Which is much lower than 5% we target to achieve in East African community. You see the private sector growing fast and lending to the economy, of course, because we are a central bank, is also growing fast. So we've registered the growth of in the range of 27% of the private sector last year. So the economy is really vibrant, and we are said to be a hub in East African region.
Right. Vice Governor, you've mentioned the private sector, which is obviously a very important conversation today, and also looking at your work, you are part of the brains behind setting up the RDB that has obviously helped a lot in building the private sector. Give us a sense of where the private sector is right now in Rwanda in terms of access to credit.
Yeah, you know, the private sector is the development of the private sector is one key pillar in the Vision 2020 of the country. So all the efforts being policies, institutions like RDB, even ministries reforming the way they do things, all institutions, it's really geared to develop the private sector. And the private sector itself, as a constituency, they are, when I look at them, they're really growing fast. They are organized better. You see more and more active role from the private sector federation and its members. You see very active associations, and we see the economy, this growth. Agriculture is contributing around 35%, and the rest, the big chunk, is from the services, which is financial institutions, IT, telecom, and so on. So you see really the private sector in the driving seat of this economy. That's the way I see it. Yeah, but we have a long way to go as an economy, like anyone else in Rwanda, by the way.
Right. It sounds like, in this sense, the private sector has indeed been included as far as the financial conversation for Rwanda is concerned. What are some of the sectors that are key in driving this growth?
Mainly, one of the fastest sectors is the services, yeah, in which you find all that is financial services, all that is retail and hotels, all that is the hospitality generally, and other services. But we've seen also manufacturing actually picking up, and I'm one of the happiest persons to see the one by one made in Rwanda etiquettes when I look at the shelves in a supermarket, and I'm really very, very proud. So that's one of also the sectors that are growing and they are contributing. But of course, agriculture, it will remain for some time the backbone of this economy, and mainly what is now being focused on is how to add value, how to increase productivity, and so on and so forth.
Right.
Yes.
You've mentioned Made in Rwanda, which is obviously a very huge rallying call in this part of the world. The concern would be for these entrepreneurs that are driving these sectors. How easy is it for them to be able to access credit? There have been concerns that probably the pricing of loans by commercial banks is a bit high, and I know this, the National Bank of Rwanda has been at pains to try and explain that. So first, let's start with an understanding of the price setting formulas. 16 to 18% by East African standard. It's fairly low, but still it's inaccessible for most entrepreneurs and business people. Talk to us a little bit about the price setting formula for loans in Rwanda.
Yes, maybe let me say that when you say access to credit, it means a lot of things. Pricing is just one element of it. Of course, it's the most critical for the perspective of an homo economicus person, like any investor. Rwanda is second worldwide by doing business report on getting a credit because the processes are easy and so on and so forth, the procedures. When it comes to the cost, we have unpacked that lending interest rate, which ranges on average at 17% for quite some time, because it's also stable, which is one of the best or the qualities of our market, the stability. But lending to corporates is around 14%, and can go maximum 16%. The average actually is pulled up by lending to smaller, maybe SMEs, maybe individual loans, and so on and so forth.
This would be because of security
And this
risks?
is because of, there is security risk, but also there is, the sectors you want to invest in. If you want to borrow to buy a car, it's different from if you want to borrow for business that is going to generate an income stream. So it's different. So I think the banks also make such kind of analysis, but also there is also the power of negotiation. The smaller you are, the less powerful in terms of negotiating a better deal compared to your bigger friend or corporate. There's a difference. But what we see also is not only the small who cannot really have that, enjoy that bargaining power, but even some of the, I would say, quite big companies can still fail to really negotiate hard. I think there is this issue of how knowledgeable you are in terms of really fighting for your rights, negotiating, putting forward whatever you have is mitigating your risk rather than being considered like on average like anyone else. And the risk on defaulting in Rwanda is very small, by the way, because on average you have 6%, 6.2% as of end of December.
So you're happy with the
of defaulters,
NPLs?
Yeah,
as
the
far as
NPLs.
Commercial banks are concerned.
Yes, as far as commercial banks are concerned.
We've been speaking to Dr. Monique Nsanzabaganwa. She is the Vice Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda. After the break, we'll be looking at fixed income as well as a look at financial inclusion. Also, I'll be asking the Vice Governor about her leadership style. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're still on the Captains of Industry, and this week we're in Kigali, Rwanda, and we're speaking to Dr. Monique Nsanzabaganwa. She is the Vice Governor at the National Bank of Rwanda. Thank you for continuing to speak to us. Let's shift our focus a little bit to the fixed income space. And for the Rwandan case, we've seen a lot of institutional investors dominating this space. How can your role as a regulator, or indeed the market, encourage retail investors into this investment tool?
Actually, in our legal framework for the capital market, as we speak today, actually there is a bond that is being issued, and you can, if you're interested, you can buy into it. And retail are also welcome. Individuals who have so many circles that have really been buying into the government bonds and so on and so forth. But generally, institutional investors will remain the dominant players. And one good step that was taken over the last 2 years or so is we used to see the money market and capital market being dominated rather by banks. But now we are seeing institutional investors even from the region coming in, and the retailers as well. And we've been working on a project of mobile channel that will facilitate individuals and other small businesses to process or buy into a bond that is being issued using their mobile devices. So it's something that is in the making. The capital market in Rwanda is not that old. We are only a few years old, and I'm seeing good developments in that regard.
You've mentioned the use of mobile in distribution of bonds, as it were. Give us a bit of a trend of the performance of government paper, especially in Rwanda.
Yeah, like the last paper that has been issued the last quarter, because there is a program of issuing a paper every quarter at least, in February, in May, in August, and in November of every year. We've been running that program consistently for the last 2 years or so. And the yields are good. We've seen in the range of 12 or slightly lower or slightly above, depending on whether it's a 10-year or 5-year or 7-year or that, like that. And we are up to issuing a 15-year in May.
Okay. Interesting. Financial inclusion is obviously a subject that is dear to your heart. Let's get a bit of an understanding of where we are as Rwanda as regards to financial inclusion.
Oh, we are advanced, very advanced. As we speak, we've concluded the FinScope, the results of which will be published in the next 1 month or so. But what we have seen as really preliminary is that we are really standing very, very well. And this is comparing 2015 to what we were in 2012. In 2012, we had only 28% totally excluded, and which is 72% included either formally or formally, and 42% were included formally. This is through a formal bank or insurance company or a formal saving and credit cooperative, like we have so many Umurenge circles here. So, and we've seen that we have really made a huge step forward, and the numbers are coming very, very soon.
Are the women of Rwanda included? Because if you look across Africa, women tend to suffer this, especially women in the rural areas who are really doing the bulk of what is feeding the populations in terms of agriculture. As regards to inclusion, are you happy with where the women are right now?
Yeah, I'm not happy, because I'm not happy for even men. They are not fully included. So I'm not happy for men, like I am not happy for women. For women, in 2012, They were formally included, they were at 36%, when the average was 42% formally included. But we have so many women, actually almost the same, who, or even more, because many rely on informal as well as formal. We see them in the informal settings, like these saving groups and so on and so forth. And what we've seen in preliminary numbers are really showing that women are getting better inclusion compared to 2012, and they have made a bigger stride than men over these years. But again, the numbers are coming up very, very soon. But what we want to do is actually have this access more meaningful to transform lives, and have it really deeper and diversified, not just a transfer, but can you access a loan? Can you be insured? Can you pay using your mobile phone and pay your school fees for your kids in school? I mean, we want financial inclusion, not for the sake of being counting numbers,
data, yes,
but really we want it to be meaningful, and that's what we are doing together with banks, with the telecom companies. Together we have these saving and credit cooperatives, Umurenge circles, that the government really has played a role in establishing and making them really autonomous and very strong. Like today, government is paying for their computerization and their automation. This is going to be very, very useful for those small institutions to really run like any modern bank and be able to report, to keep data, and to track the loans and so on and so forth. So we want really beyond financial inclusion to make it really the usage and use it to transform lives.
Interesting. Still on that issue, there's obviously conversations about the use of technology in this space for financial inclusion, and basically for players in the financial services sector to distribute their products. However, that comes to the question of regulation. What is the relationship, especially in Rwanda, between technological advancement in the financial services sector and regulation?
Oh, this regulation is very, very key, but not any type of regulation. We want a regulation, and we said to be those regulators who do not stifle innovation. We work in collaboration with the industry, being the financial institutions or the payment service providers, because they're the ones really who have to be ahead of innovation, coming up with ideas and so on and so forth. And our role is to make sure that there is a level playing field, and that the regulations are really catching up fast enough to prevent the worst, to protect consumers, to make sure that the financial institutions and the service providers themselves are stable, and to be an active player in this issue of global cyber security and so on and so forth. So we partner with the regulator of utilities here in Rwanda. And we also partner with the Capital Markets Authority as the regulators to be able to exchange notes and be alongside the innovators and the private sector as they want to invest. So I would say a challenging work, because really you have to be there for the people who are so knowledgeable and they're innovating. They come up with good ideas, new ideas all the time, and the regulators are supposed to be like really setting rules that are there to stay for some time.
Dr. Monique, you've obviously had a very colorful career.
Colorful?
And impressive, I must say, looking at your role in government, running ministries, setting policies for different sectors, private sector and the like. What did you describe as your leadership style? Because obviously all this has been anchored on something.
I don't know. Maybe you're going to research more about me and try to describe me. But what I know is in all those capacities, I was given a privilege to serve. And I always try to strive to be and do the best I can given the circumstances, because I believe there is a reason. I'm the one to be in that seat and not someone else. And I know that it's not a right. It's only a privilege and a challenge. And I've always relied to the colleagues, being the colleagues in an institution or even the staff you supervise, because alone you cannot do much. I've always enjoyed the support of appointing authorities and the guidance, because you really have, I mean, we have, I think, an opportunity as Rwandan leaders to be in those seats in this generation where you have visionary leadership, where you have commitment to serve, and so on and so forth. So that's really, it's a framework that you work in, and that is propelling you to achieve whatever you achieve. It's not like you are the one really doing it, but you're the face of what that machinery of Rwandan broad leadership is doing, and you're the face in this institution. But what you do is actually, it gets ingredients from all other sectors, because one sector, one institution cannot be successful alone. Yeah.
Interesting. You mentioned the next generation and being a business leader in this generation. In your view, what set of qualities or traits must business leaders in the next generation have?
I think they have to believe in Africa more, and try to think that they are the solution more, and work together more. Because I think in Africa we have everything, but we have to harness it, and you have to trust each other. It's not actually business leaders alone, but would wish also politicians to act that way. Right. Because even if you, as a business, you can talk the same language as your colleague in another country, but when you want to trade, there is always that frontier you have to cross, those institutions you have to go through, those rules you have to follow. And this has really to be like really this Pan-Africanist spirit that has to be embedded in whatever businesses are doing. And if they talk, the politicians will listen. Right. But because they're powerful, right, they're the ones paying taxes. So if they talk, right, they can really articulate better that need of cooperation and collaboration, and policymakers are always there to really try and create a framework for that to flourish.
Right. There are obviously a lot of young women business leaders that will be watching this conversation, and there are different set of challenges that they do face depending on where they are in the continent. What can business leaders like yourself, who are already in positions of decision making, do to ensure that it's a lot easier for the younger generation of women business leaders coming through the ranks? Mm-hmm.
I think as leaders today, you have that homework of ensuring that you're opening doors. And the doors are so many, I cannot name them now, but wherever you are, think in terms of, how am I opening doors for my sisters and my young brothers? And if you set that in your brain and in your KPIs, your key performance indicators, personal key performance indicators, they might not be known by someone else, right, but you challenge yourself in that way, and then you see that if you're selfish in that manner, if you're really generous in that manner, you will see what to do to create a better future for the coming generation. And another responsibility is to ensure that you transfer that knowledge, and you really you make sure that whatever you can, there is someone else who is understanding you.
So there's obviously a strong case for mentorship in Africa.
Yes,
right.
yeah, there is a case for that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We have to put a pause there. Many thanks for making time to speak to us. I've been speaking to Dr. Monique Nsanzabaganwa. She is the Vice Governor of the National Bank of Rwanda.